Alright guys, welcome back. So we're going to start another project. Now if you're wondering about decorating the other projects, we'll be doing some decorating videos quite soon. But I like to have 2 or 3 projects ready that I can decorate all in the same time. And I'll do separate videos now. Right, what we're doing today is we're going to make napkin rings. Now I know it's not the ideal time of the year, but these are ideal for parties, barbecues, birthdays, but Christmas as well. Now if you start now, you will definitely have time to make them in time for Christmas. And if you've got a big family coming, or you're going to have a big do, you might want to make quite a few. So what you'll need, you need something like that. I mean, this is a shoe polish. I mean, a deodorant spray, just a can or a solid bar of wood or something about that size. It's about an inch and a quarter in diameter. You'll need a toilet roll holder, some tape, and I get them out of the way so I don't lose them. I'm losing myself now. Oh yeah, there we go. A pair of scissors, and of course some clay. Now again, I'm using the Pebeo air drying clay. I just like this stuff. It's good quality stuff. You'll need, for each napkin ring, you'll need a ball of clay that's about the size of a golf ball. So 1 and a bit inches in diameter. About the size of a golf ball. So put them to one side, roll them out ahead of time, and then just cover them up with a baby wipe or like a wet one, just to stop them drying out too soon. Just to keep them nice and moist. Right, so first things first, what you're going to do is you're going to take your toilet roll holder. It needs to slip over there. Now you can either do it with a pair of scissors or a knife or whatever. Just be careful, don't go cutting yourself, because it's not my fault if you're not allowed sharp pointy objects. And you're just going to cut up that. Don't know why I was doing it over there. Then you're going to get a couple of pieces of tape. How bright's that? It's about the only colour I can see at the moment. So if we can get the tape off the roll. You don't need much. You'll see what we're using it for in a second. So a couple of pieces of that, not a great deal. We don't need a great deal of that at all. That's it, 2 pieces. We'll pop that to one side out the way. And take your can, your toilet roll holder, and you're just going to fold the edges under so it's wrapped fairly tightly around the around the little can, and then just tape the ends up. Have I got that in the right place? Yeah. So just tape the ends up so it's nice and neat, and there we go. Now you can get away with doing 2 napkin ring holders on each of these, but don't do any more than 2. Ideally I would say just do 1, but that's anyway. So what you're going to do next, so that's stuck down, snug fit, don't need any more than that. Get one of your balls of clay, leave the other one covered up. Right, make sure it's nice and conditioned. Give it a squidge. Don't squash it too much. Just make sure there's no hard lumps. It's all nicely supple and manipulated and round and what have you. Alright, so what you're going to do, just make it into your nice round, or your nice round ball, and then you're going to push your thumb while you're rotating, so you're doing it fairly evenly. But this time we're going to go all the way through, and when you get about halfway, turn it over and go in from the other side. That way you're spreading the clay nice and evenly, and you're not going to end up with a lopsided lumpy bit. And once you get so far through, still not all the way through, just turn over and just tease till you like that. Once you've broken through the centre, just tease it a little bit. Right, keep it moving, keep it even, If you feel any hard lumps or any extraneous bits and pieces, make sure you even them all out. Now we're just working this so it stays roughly the same sort of width, well, even width all the way around as you're working it, but we're pressing with the thumb from the inside out. Now don't stay on one side, turn it over, because otherwise you'll end up with an oddly shaped, it'll basically be like a truncated internal cone rather than a ring. So in other words, it'll be thicker on one side than on the other. So we're just working that around, keeping it evenly spread, and you're going to work it until it's just about big enough, or until it is big enough, to go over what is essentially going to be your former. So just work it out. Now if you don't like how wide it is, just pinch it in a little bit, just to even it out. And it's probably not such a bad idea actually at this stage to have it a little bit narrower. Right, so we're just about there. So not much more to go. But again, keep it even. Keep thinking about how it feels under your thumb, so you're not bunching it all up on one side. Not that it makes a great deal of difference, because you're going to be shaping it soon. See, we're almost there now. Don't try and force it, because you'll end up tearing. And then you'll have to start doing odd things like joining lengths of clay together, which is, with air drying clay it's doable, but it's not as easy with air drying as it would be with ordinary clay. So try and avoid that if you can. Right, so we're almost there. So you can just now start turning it and gently feeding it down onto your form. So once it's actually on the tube, you don't have to go all the way down. Remember, you can do 2 on each tube if you want to. There we go. Right, so now what we're going to do now is just gently nip it between thumb and forefingers while turning it, just to press it down onto the cardboard a little bit. Now don't worry about it shrinking and things like that, because it doesn't actually shrink as much as you would expect it to, believe it or not. Right, so there we go. There we are. So we've got, like, it's about 1 inch and a bit wide, about 1/4 of an inch thick, and fairly even all the way around. You can actually, if you want to, just gently roll it. But just make sure you don't pick up any bits and pieces of extraneous rubbish. Now, all we're going to do now, because of the way we're going to make these, this is going to be part 1, but what we're going to do is just gently press the edges down to create a domed shape. Don't have to go mad. I think we'll push that on a little bit further. Let's pull the tape. There we go. So we're just gently squidging it down to get the shape we want. Now that is essentially all you want to do with it. Just gently shaping it to give it a nice round ring shaped, because we're going to sand these later on and we're going to prepare them for some really nice decoration, some gold leaf and some high gloss finishing and things like that. So the more time you spend on this bit, the less time you'll have to spend on prep, the sanding and what have you. Right, let's get where my glasses are. Nope, that's not them. That's not them. That, there they are. Not that I can actually see a great deal. Yep, we're okay. So we're just gently smoothing round. Now we'll go back and we'll get our other piece and we're going to do exactly the same. So making sure it's all nicely conditioned, no hard bits on it, making it as round as we can because we need it to be fairly even before we start. And then just from one side, just gently push your thumb into the ball until you're about halfway through. Turn it over, do the same. Gently pushing it through until you're about halfway through. Then both fingers, finger and thumb, just do the same again, pressing in until your fingers meet in the middle. It's probably the easiest way to describe it. And then just gently squeeze off to one side until you've made a hole in the middle. Like so. And then just once going from side to side, squeezing it out, making sure it's nice and even all the way around. No thick bits, no thin bits. Keeping it roughly an inch wide. Slowly, 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 slowly. Nice and even. And then we'll come back to this. No, it's not going to fit yet. So squeeze out a little bit more. Again, don't try squeezing it out too quickly, because that's when you'll start getting lumps and thick spots and thin spots, and it'll become uneven. And once it starts to become uneven, it gets a lot harder to bring back, as it were. Nope. But we don't want to thicken it out too much. We want it to stay about, at this stage, just about an inch wide. So just squeezing, gently teasing it, but making sure it's even on both sides. And you don't want it like to turn up like an hourglass shape inside either. Right? So just, if you do that, you can actually roll the inside out a little bit. If you roll it on your fingers. A little bit more. Nope, still not there. Almost. But again, turning it around, making sure it doesn't go out any more than an inch or so wide to start with. Right, we're there. So you can gently tease it onto the tube. If you can, if the seams, follow the overlapping layer if you're twisting it on, because you don't want to cut off the inside, squeeze off the inside. Right, so it's on the tube. So gently squeezing it up. Right, see where we are. And then we're just going to, can be a little bit awkward at this point. Just take your time. There's no need to rush. Just squeeze down the edges to round it off. Now it becomes a little bit awkward because you've already got one big heavy lump on the other end. So you've got to be careful about making sure everything stays nice and even. Just roll it on there. That'll smooth everything off. A bit loose, that one. Just going to squeeze that onto the tube. Oops, we've nipped a bit. Snip that back up again. Right, there we are. So that is stage 1. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to leave that to set. Going to leave that to start to dry. Now as you can see, that's moving on there already. That's moving on there already. That's fine. That's good. But we're going to leave them for about an hour and a half. At which point we're going to take it, and well actually you could do that now. We're just going to take this out. And the reason why we split the tube is so that if this shrinks, it doesn't shrink a lot, but if it does, it's not going to split if it shrinks too quickly. So you can just put that to one side. You can stand them up to rest on each other. You can lie them down. You can suspend them on something. Do whatever you want. I like to just put them up like that way, and then that way the weight they'll settle down themselves, and you'll automatically get 2, 3 nice smooth sides. The only one you'll have to worry about is this top one. Right, so stage 1. Leave that a few hours at least, and we'll come back and we'll show you the next stage.